This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
So let's propose an approach to answer this amazing question. That why is it that when it comes to moving Tisha B'Av from the 9th to the 10th, Tosfos on Hamad Beis says that's not a violation of Ein Bezdin Yachal Levatel Divrei Bezdin Chaveroi Elam Kein Gadol Mimenu B'Chachmo V'Minyan, and yet the Gemara on Beis Amud Aleph in Megillah says that to legislate reading in the Megillah the 11th and the 12th and the 13th, that would have been a violation of Ein Bezdin Yachal Levatel Divrei Bezdin Chaveroi Elam Kein Gadol Mimenu B'Chachmo V'Minyan, unless we say it was legislated by the original Anshe Knesset Hagdolah. Let's offer the following proposal. It's based on an idea that's brought in the name of the Brisker Rav, although the Brisker Rav doesn't spell out the full distinction between the two cases. Let's say as follows. What was the enactment of Tisha B'Av? Was the enactment to fast on the 9th of the month? That's debatable. The Minchas Chinuch offers that when it comes to Tisha B'Av, the enactment of Tisha B'Av was to fast and mourn for the destruction of Megillas in Chodesh Av in general. And then later Chachamim picked the 9th. In that case, the distinction is clear between Tisha B'Av and Purim, because Purim, we know, not only was the month of Adar chosen, the 14th and the 15th was chosen. So for later Chachamim to change the date, that certainly would be a violation of Ein Bezdin Yachal Levatel Divrei Bezdin Chaver, because the original enactment was the 14th and the 15th, as opposed to Tisha B'Av, they only picked the month in general. But even if you don't take that approach, even if you say the enactment was that day, but let's say it as follows. The takana of Tisha B'Av, the legislation of Tisha B'Av, it's very reasonable to assume that the early authorities legislated not just to fast, but to fast in a way where you're commemorating the tragedy on a day that it was Ira the Chorban. In other words, you can't just fast. It's clear if somebody would fast in the middle of Chodesh Adar for Tisha B'Av, that would be an outright akira of the legislation of Tisha B'Av, because it's reasonable to assume that the legislations, the Iker Tsuras Hatakana, was not just to be Misaneh, but to be Misaneh Biyoim She'ira HaChorban. So comes Rebbe, and Rebbe wanted to be Iker Tisha B'Av. Says Tosfos, Rebbe would have said, let's enact Tisha B'Av on the 10th. Now, is that flying in the face of what the early authorities enacted? Tosfos argues, no, it doesn't. Because it's not that the original takana included that it should dafka be on the 9th. That's when they did it, but the Iker Tsuras HaTakana, perhaps, is that you should fast Biyoim She'ira, on the day that it occurred, the tragedy. So Rebbe would argue, you could make the case that the Iker tragedy happened on the 10th. So moving it to the 10th is in no way a violation of the fundamental nature of the way that the fast day was legislated. It was legislated not just to fast, but to fast in a way where you're observing the destruction on a day that the destruction occurred. And that is still preserved if you move Tisha B'Av to the 10th. Let's talk about Purim. The original enactment of Purim, the Gemara says, if it was to observe a Yom Tif on the day that commemorates the miracle of Purim, so then we know what it says in the Purim story, that in regular cities they killed their enemy on the 13th and they fasted on the 14th. And in walled cities they killed on the 13th and the 14th, they rested on the 15th. So if the original takana was to fast on the 14th and the 15th, then Me'ikr Tsuras Takanas Purim was to celebrate on the day that the Yom Tif is commemorated, because the Yom Tif happened on that day. So now what? Later Chachamim are going to say, well, we're not uprooting Purim, we're just sliding it over to the 11th, 12th, and 13th. Why are you doing it? Well, we want to give an allowance to the villagers who are coming in anyway on an earlier Monday and Thursday. We want to allow them to hear the Megillah on a day that they're coming in anyway, because they have to hear it from someone who's an expert in the big city. Say, but how could you do that? That means you're legislating a Purim in a way that completely violates the fundamental nature of the takana. You say, well, what do you mean? We're just sliding the calendar date. No, you can't just slide the calendar date. You could slide the calendar date if you're preserving Iker Tzuras HaTakana. That's when, let's say, Tisha B'Av is moved from the 9th and 10th. So either way, you're commemorating the Churban B'Yom She'ira. But if you're going to move Purim from the 14th and the 15th to 11th, 12th, and 13th, so you're right, it's just a slide. But by sliding it, now Purim is being observed on a day that does not commemorate the day that the Yom Tov happened. Nothing happened on the 11th, 12th, and 13th. So if the Takana was only 14 and 15, to slide it over to a day that's not connected, that's not a day where the miracle happened, it's not a day that's Yom She'ira, the Nes, so that's a full violation of Ein Bezin Yachal Avato Devrei Bezin Chaveroi Elam Ken Gadol Meno B'Chach Minyan. Therefore, the Gemara says it has to be the Anshe Knesset Agdola originally enacted 11, 12, and 13th. And in that case, it's not, they never made Me'ikr Tzuras Takonas Purim that it has to be on that day. But if they would have made the 14th and 15th, of course you can't make it on the 11th, 12th, and 13th. That would be a full violation. In other words, sliding a calendar date in and of itself does not save you from violating Ein Bezin Yachal Avato Divrei Bezin Chaverim Ken Gadol Mimenu B'Chacham Minyan. You still need to preserve, you always need to preserve Iker Tzuras HaTakana, otherwise a later court cannot counteract an earlier court. So when it comes to Tisha B'Av, you're still preserving, by sliding to the 10th, you're still preserving Iker Tzuras HaTakana. But by Purim, if you would slide at 11, 12, and 13, you would not be celebrating the Yom Tif B'Yom She'ira Bay, and we're maintaining that, in fact, would be a violation of Iker Tzuras HaTakana. Wishing everyone a Freilich and Adar, Haba Aleinu L'Taiva.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.